Hi, I'm David Huboi. You're watching Going Green TV. Thanks for joining us here. And this show is sponsored by the San Benito County Chamber of Commerce. And coming from the Green Business Committee, our message is economic vitality along with environmental sustainability. Today, my co-host Shawn Novack and I will be interviewing Don Pidd and Valerie Eglund with R.E.A.C.H San Benito Foundation. And we're going to be talking about the importance of parks and recreation and also the associated challenges within our community. Welcome to the show, guys.
Glad to be here.
It's great to have you on.
Happy to be here.
Great. And I'll begin with a little bio of Valerie. And Valerie was raised in San Benito County, moved to Hawaii for a 12-year stay, taught woodworking and had a family, then came back to California. And you continued your education, finished out with a BA and UCSC, and also a master's at SJSU, San Jose State, both in art and sculpture. And before we go on, I have to tell you that, you know, that's something that we have in common because I also have a degree in art from San Jose State. Go Spartans, right?
Yeah.
You always plug those Spartans.
It's always great having a Spartan on the show. Okay, and you applied your art experience in the metallist, foundry, and concrete and building industries, as well as creating your own business, which was Eclipse Art since 1989. Another thing we have in common, because I've been a self-employed architect since 1989.
Yeah.
So how about that? So, and then after, it served women artists for 25 years, and your have an interest in fitness with your grandsons, and imperative for staying strong with tennis, bicycling, hiking, yoga, lifting weights, and it's important to you on a daily basis. And it's your grounding in San Benito County with your commitment to fitness and the vision for a strong future through education, recreation, exercise, art, and culture that inspires you. Right? Great. And with Don here, Don was also born and raised in San Benito County. And in your youth, you spent a lot of time at Blotto Park, right? And swimming over there?
Sure did.
Yeah. And you and your wife are now caretakers at the San Benito County Historical Park.
That's correct.
Yeah, great. So you came back there, you retired and came back to San Benito County. And you're also, along with Valerie, you're on the board, you're the treasurer of R.E.A.C.H, San Benito Foundation, and you also serve on the Parks and Recreation Commission for the San Benito County.
I do,
right?
yes.
Great. Okay, and of course, my co-host Shawn Novack, as you all know,
Thank you, David.
is a Water Conservation Program Manager with the Water Resources Association of San Benito County.
It's a mouthful.
Hey, I did that right.
It's a
this
mouthful.
time,
Can I see your business card? It must be.
Yeah, 2 feet by 3 feet.
Okay. Okay, for the viewers, Don, let us know what is R.E.A.C.H? What is the acronym? What does that stand for?
R.E.A.C.H stands for Recreation, Exercise, and Community Health. And that's sort of encompasses the mission of R.E.A.C.H.
Okay, and speaking of the mission, what is your mission statement?
Our mission is to enhance parks and recreation programs throughout San Benito County and act as a funding source for various programs and to partner with other like-minded organizations and nonprofits in order to develop, to maintain, enhance, and develop new recreation and program opportunities within the county.
Great, great. So let's talk about, with Valerie, how important are parks and recreation to the community? Why is it important to provide green space within the urban hardscape?
I think the key word there is hardscape, and the human being is not going to do well in just around cement, houses, streets. To be able to get out and breathe and feel free is extremely important, I think, for the health and well-being of all people. Right. For children to be able to get out, parents to follow along, and to have a healthy outlook.
Great.
And how did this come about? How did this group come about? I'm kind of interested. I read a little bit on the website. Can one of you tell me about that? Or?
Sure. A few years ago, San Benito County, through the Community Foundation, they put together this community vision group.
Yeah, it was part of the listening session.
It was listening sessions, and they just put out listening to what the community wanted. And out of that, there was a big interest and a big desire to have strong parks and recreation programs throughout the county. And so R.E.A.C.H sort of grew out of that impetus, out of that desire of the community itself. So we really came from the ground roots.
That's great. And there's no government affiliation as far as the government agencies that's sponsoring you or anything?
We have partnerships with them because obviously they have the parks and they have, so we partnership with San Benito County, with the city of Hollister now, and with the city of San Juan Bautista.
That's great.
And we will work in conjunction with the enhancement of the existing parks, but we are not part of any government agency, no. We're an independent nonprofit.
I found that really interesting that this was driven at the grassroots level by our residents, so that's exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead, I know you had some more questions.
Yeah, well, I just want to share with you is that when we first moved to Hollister, San Benito County, one of my fondest memories was pushing my daughter Carmen, just my infant daughter, on the swings over at Dunn Park. And then later on, sitting there in the bleachers over at the swimming pool, the high school swimming pool, while she learned how to swim.
That's great.
And the first time I took her there, I couldn't get her into the water, but she actually learned how to swim there. And I'm sitting there in the bleachers, cheering her on with the other community members, and having a community of sorts right there at the high school. And it's one of my fondest memories. And then I was thinking afterwards, I think, wow, this is really a community here, and it was all kind of evolved around my daughter learning how to swim, and the parks and the swings, and talking to the folks there with their kids. It was really really one of my fondest memories.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
So I mean, you mentioned in the hardscape, I know the National Parks and Recreation Association recommends that there be a park within 2 miles of every home. And that also the city's park system should provide at least 5 to 8 acres of parks for every 1,000 residents. But it's not only just for the recreation and exercise. I know, Valerie, you were mentioning it's for the kind of the mental well-being, but also is for for folks to interact, to go out there, to enjoy the nature, to have this as a refuge, for the stressful day, to experience a green space with, that they can talk and kind of provide a sense of ownership to that environment.
Sure.
Kind of encourages folks to go outside their homes, talk to their neighbors.
Yeah.
And that's how neighborhood watch associations come about and build a strong sense of neighborhood community.
I know you and I use San Justo, and I mean, we see quite a number of people there in the morning, and that's the only time I really talk to people in my neighborhood when we're out recreating like that. Because when I go home, I go in my garage and go inside. Don't really interact with anybody. So when we're out in the morning, I see you out there. It's nice seeing my neighbors out.
It's nice.
In the
It's
morning.
nice to see you out there at 5 o'clock over at the Rancho, walking around the track and with the pull-up bars and
That's great.
doing sit-ups and jumping jacks and the whole bit, and say, "Hey, Shawn, how's it going, buddy?"
That's more you on the pull-ups and stuff.
That's the only time I have to exercise, like 5 o'clock in the morning. Otherwise, I have to go
Exactly.
back to my stressful day. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, speaking of parks, we talk a little bit about how important it is to get out there and exercise and have a green space within within our hardscape, as I was mentioning, you were commenting on, Valerie. But is there an economic benefit to? Because I know you're the treasurer for R.E.A.C.H. San Benito Foundation. Do parks have an economic benefit to the community?
Absolutely. Any successfully vibrant community, any place in the world, is going to have a strong park and recreation component to it, to develop exactly what Valerie was talking about, a sense of well-being within the community, because people that feel good about themselves and feel that they have a community where they can take their daughter to go swimming and let their children go to Dunn Park, and that's where I grew up, playing at Dunn Park all summer long, every summer. And it makes a huge difference, and it makes everybody feel safer, everybody feel warmer about each other, and so you'll see you know, if you go to Silicon Valley or any of those places, a lot of those large corporations and companies will move to those areas because they know that their people, their staff and stuff are going to feel good about themselves and feel good about what's going on in the community.
You know, speaking of corporations, and I've been reading some studies put out by the University of Washington, and even within like the corporate environment or in a research and development building, for example, just having a window where you can look out and see a tree or some, I know, a garden area actually improves the worker production.
I believe it does. Because I've worked in a cubicle farm before without a window, and
Yeah,
now my office now,
yeah.
I look out on an ag field, and it's still so much better.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to also at this time mention I've been a fan of Wallace Stegner, who was one of the founders of Committee for Green Foothills and who wrote Wilderness Letters, which, you know, provided a lot of political clout to save our wilderness and areas within the country. And a quote from him, he says, without remaining wilderness, and I also apply this to parks, we are committed wholly without chance for even momentary reflection and rest to a headlong dive into our technological termite/life. The brave new world, Aldous Huxley, of completely man-controlled environments. So, I mean, those are kind of a little bit harsh there, but there's a lot of meaning to that.
Sure.
And I think going back to, you know, my daughter and kids going out and having a place like a park to have exercise and be able to tangibly, you know, explore the world is very important for their development. And studies have shown that it's important for their cognitive brain's cognitive capacity and well-being, and studies have shown that when kids are going out in nature and they're exploring nature, it helps improve their performance in schools, and it's good to, you know, as a sense of just being able to enjoy nature is, you know, kind of with as compared to like sitting in front of a computer screen and doing video games, you know, there's sense of alienation.
And plus it allows children to realize how we as humans fit in the world, you know, because, you know, it amazes me, I go to schools to give public talks, and how many kids, they don't know where our water comes from or what happens to it after it goes down the drain. And when you're out in nature, you can kind of see, you know, like our rivers take the water out to the Pajaro and see how our water, we bring it up from the groundwater. So it's a great educational opportunity as well as recreation too.
It's actually pretty phenomenal. I'm fortunate enough to be the caretaker out at this historical park, and we one of the things we've been doing lately is really trying to promote the school kids coming out there, and we had, I think, 200 school children over the last couple of months coming out. And doing exactly what you're talking about, going over things like the water, the windmills, the wells, and they're just in awe.
Yeah.
That's the part that really fascinates me, is that the kids want to know, and that's where we're missing it. We, as adults, we say, oh, we blame it on video games or TV or stuff, but it's not the kids. The kids want to be out there. Sometimes they don't know they want to be out there, but once they're out there, and it doesn't matter what level, what economic level. You know, we partner with the Juvenile Probation Department of San Benito County, and twice a month they bring their kids out for community service, and they'll start the day with their little gruff attitudes. By the end of their session they're having a great time. They're just loving it out in nature, and they don't know that that's there. They don't even know that exists.
Yeah. You know, one of the, I go to see Don Kelly a lot. Don is the Parks and Recreation Commissioner, and I go into his shop there and I see all these pictures of kids, little leagues, and, you know, their teams, and I think about those days when I played Little League, and one of the values of learning good sportsmanship, you know, it's just a wholesome environment with not only kids but the parents. They have these venues to, you know, to form the teams and the competition, and, you know, learn the good things, the good sportsmanship. And learn how
I
to
went
play
through
the
that whole
game
thing, and
correctly,
it was
you
my
know.
whole life at one point,
Yeah.
you know, and it filled a big void that, you know. So
Yeah,
it's
I
great.
really valued it. I wasn't that great of a player, you know. I get a base hit, and that was, you know, really good for me. But actually, I was also a pitcher, and I thought, you know, I'm not a bad pitcher, but You know, I always had these dreams. You know, Hank Aaron came from Madison, Wisconsin. Hank Aaron, and you know, I was this kid with Eddie Matthews. Boy, what a 1-2 punch they were. You know,
Oh yeah.
you know, they were good role models for me too. You know,
Sure.
and just having, and it's also all based on. Can't wait to get on a little league team and you know and show my stuff and see if I can participate. You know, but yeah, those were the good memories. Hey, well, anyhow, don't touch that remote because when you come back, we're going to talk about some of the challenges associated with Parks and Recreation. Hey, you're back watching Going Green, and now we're going to talk about the challenges of implementing and maintaining parks and recreation within our community. I'm going to start with you, Don. What do you see are the challenges, so maybe some also the unique challenges of implementing and maintaining and parks and recreation within our community?
I mean, obviously the number one challenge is money. And that was really the impetus to create the R.E.A.C.H San Benito Foundation, was so that we could become a funding arm for those types of programs and raising money through major fundraising efforts, grants, corporate sponsorships, partnerships with organizations and other agencies. I think I said grants. And in order to develop a funding source that we can then help provide a lot of those things that the current parks aren't able to provide because of the lack of funding through the government agencies.
And
Our park, for example, I'll give it just a quick example, the historical park. We recently, our shade trees out there have been historically pine trees, large pine trees, and they got diseased. And they've had to cut down 17, 18 major, so we have a minimum amount of shade now, but the county doesn't really have the funds to provide immediate large shade trees, so that may be the type of thing that R.E.A.C.H would help provide, so to get that ongoing maintenance, ongoing
oh, that's good.
type of stuff.
But are you looking for individual donations as well, or?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
How can somebody do that if they want to make a donation?
The best way right now would be to go to our website, reachsanbenito.org, and there's links to how to contact us for that.
Right. And then I saw something like get involved, like even if you don't have money, you could still assist your effort.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a need for volunteers to serve on committees for events, for fundraising efforts, for outreach, all those things that we need to do in order to get our name out in the community, as well as raise the funds that we're hoping to raise.
Great. And then I know, David, you were talking about maintenance. That's always an issue.
Right,
And
maintenance, yeah.
that's the big issue. Yeah, maintenance in parks, because again, there's just a real lack of funding for that. And so.
And we want to keep our parks well maintained too. That's really important.
Definitely.
You know, and the trees. Yeah, talked about the trees. You know, trees are important for mental well-being. You know, the Herculean motion of the trees are very, you know, they're very calming effect.
Don was
Absolutely.
saying this shade, to be able to sit out underneath
Yeah.
a tree outside.
Shades
yeah.
Just,
Yeah.
You know, having a diversity of plant life out there, sometimes very helpful. You know, to
Oh, I'm just always in
create
awe.
attractive environment. Yeah.
I'm in awe of the number of birds that are just in our little park. I mean, I'm not a birder per se, but I know I can sit out there very early in the morning and just hear probably 70, 80 different birds sounds out there
Very
in
cool.
just that little park. So yeah, so that's critical.
Yeah. You know, I'm also a planning commissioner. I try to, you know, say that, you know, I know we have issues with, you know, maintaining parks and, you know, funding the maintenance, and, you know, we have these overlay zones where that for the multi-unit development, you know, that is encouraged to have amenities such as a little pocket park. Even a little pocket park is really important when you don't have, you know, anywhere to walk to, you know, other to get that experience. And I sometimes I argue that, you know, there are other, you know, and this is where you can chime in here on maintenance and like water usage. There's drought-tolerant landscaping, and there's even a landscaping that that South County Housing used on Vista Meadows called No-Mow, and we have it on other development that is, you don't have to to mow the lawn, you know. And,
Oh, there's so many great
mean,
materials out there now. I
seems
mean, we're
like
so used. We
some
grew up with
alternatives
the
out there.
lawns and the turfs, and I mean that was a park, right? You go out
Right.
and there'd be just turf out there, basically, maybe some trees. I'm sorry, I'm gonna slap you in the face, but anyway, anyway. But there's so many alternatives now, and especially they're using a lot of recycled materials, which is exciting, you know. And we did the little demonstration garden down at Dunn Park about water-wise garden and landscaping, and you know, it's amazing what you can do just with a limited space too, you know, like what you can really add to people and add to their enjoyment. And I love going down there. It gives me self-satisfaction when I go down there and I see people sitting in the garden, you know, communicating with each other. It's just, it's really nice. And if we had some bigger parks, it'd be wonderful for the public.
And as I mentioned, you know, sometimes I get over to Rancho at 5 o'clock in the morning, and there's Shawn there, you know, and he's waving his arms around and everything, you know.
Getting the blood going in the morning, David.
But that's at a school.
Yeah.
That's at a school, and I think it's incorrect to rely on schools for that amenity, because a lot of times those schools are closed during
Yeah.
school hours. It's not for
During
public.
yeah, and right now, because it's summer season, we have access to it, but after 7 o'clock, you got to be out of there. So.
And sometimes there's after-school programs, you know, and they're really, those parks for schools are not, you know, it's nice to have those parks sometimes when it's after school hours on the weekend. But
And for the leagues, like the
you can't rely on the
soccer.
schools for the amenity. You have to have, you know, separate parks within the community. You know, that's my viewpoint. Yeah.
Totally. And like you were saying, I mean, there's so many materials out there that we don't have to use turf. Recycled material, you know, and now that we have more knowledge about environment and stuff, you know, having permeable landscapes allow the water to pass through and soak into the groundwater, and you know, that can be a learning laboratory too, to teach these kids about different, you know, ideas and things regarding nature and how to properly be good stewards to our environment, you know. So.
And now that we're, you know, thinking about water conservation, you know, we can get creative on developing a greenscape within the urban hardscape, like, you know, green roofs, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, even having a green roof, you know, would cut down on the heat island effect.
Little rain harvesting,
Yeah.
things like that.
Bioswells, you know, having
Yeah.
like bioswells within the, you know, here.
Allowing
and
that
there
water to percolate into
the
the
water
ground.
percolate in the ground. Yeah. I mean, just learning about, you know, learning what Mother Nature can do to, you know, improve the infrastructure of the water system by just being creative with the landscaping and drought tolerant, like you say, and you know, being very conscious about, you know, how to use recycled materials. I mean, those can cut down on the maintenance costs, and I think can help encourage to continue to have pocket parks and parks within the community. Yeah.
I think so.
So I was wondering, you know, that Valerie, what is your vision then for the future? What do you see for the vision of the county? Do you have a vision that you can share with us on what the future can bring, possibly?
From my experience so far with Parks and Rec, going just as Citizen Joe Blow, getting interested and watching what's going on and contributing my own experience as I could, and then getting involved with R.E.A.C.H, it seems that the county is moving toward a friendly bicycle pedestrian type of atmosphere. The Monterey Bay bicycle pedestrian paths along the whole Monterey Bay, they are looking to link up with San Benito County through the Pajaro. This is a mainstream to the Monterey Bay Sanctuary. So I can envision if our River Parkway, which has been discussed a lot through the county, if R.E.A.C.H can implement small ways in which things can link up so that San Benito County can be a greater part of the whole Central California coastal area, then we'll have a win-win situation.
Great.
Yeah, something else I don't want to get lost too with your art background is I see it. I guess it's been a trend for the last couple of decades, but you know, up along the Embarcadero in San Francisco, I was just up in Portland, where they have public art outside in open
Big
space.
time.
It's really, it's a wonderful thing. You can go out and see this stuff. Like they had some stuff from Burning Man up on the Embarcadero there, and it was just,
cool.
I'm not going to Burning Man, but it was really cool. It was really cool to see the sculpture.
I can see you.
I know, a lot of people say that. The only way I'm going to go is like I go in the Pope Mobile and just like kind of drive through. But anyway, it's I think we have to use that also as a space for public art.
Yeah, public art.
Yes. in the Sonoma area, they have found that if you introduce art to a walking trail, that it will increase your patronage on that walking trail by double.
Wow,
So
that
it's,
much, huh?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I
really
knew it
worth
would
it.
help, but I didn't think that much. Wow, that's fabulous.
Well, you mentioned art, and I'm not going to let anybody go without promoting music too, because as we know, I have my band called the Architecturals, and we love playing out there at farmers markets, and maybe we'll play at the Dunn Park. I know you're going to have a historic Dunn Park Raise the Roof celebration soon, Dunn.
Yeah, it's not,
not done.
not done
I mean,
part.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It was
Right.
very close though. Very close. Yeah, we're
Just keeping it real.
Yeah, I know. That's all right.
at the historical park. Just real briefly, we had there used to be a historic dance hall out at Dunnville, and it was built in 1890. And in the 1990s, it was moved out to San Benito County Historical Park, and then about 7-8 years ago, it blew down in a freak windstorm. And this last 7 or 8 years, we've raised funds to rebuild a new dance hall, because we feel that that's a real important venue to bring youth groups, to bring music out, to bring art out into the community, to have a venue where they can actually do that. And this not this Saturday, on the July 26th, Saturday, July 26th, we're going to have Raise the Roof 2. We had a fundraiser a couple years ago called Raise the Roof to actually build it, and now we want to raise the roof with music. So on July 26th, we're having that. And during that day, though, we're having a park celebration, which is the culmination of National Parks and Recreation Month. And it's going to be a family fun day. There's going to be children games. Valerie's gotten toy makers out there, antique toy makers. We're just going to have a whole lot of activities, as well as the dedication of the dance hall itself that day.
Fun.
Wonderful.
So you're all invited.
Hey, well, I want to thank you guys coming on the show today. Is there a website that you can share with the viewers if they want to get involved with R.E.A.C.H?
Sure.
Benito Foundation?
Sure, absolutely. Our website address is reachsanbenito.org. And if you want information about the historical park, our website address is sbchistoricalsociety.org.
Great. Well, Valerie, thank you. And Don,
Yes,
thank
thank you
you
very
so
much.
much
Thank you
for
for
coming
having
to
us.
talk about such
Really
an
enjoyed it.
important subject that
really
is very
is.
not only dear to my heart, but dear to my mental well-being.
I'm right there with you, David.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're back watching Going Green. I want to thank our guests, Valerie Eglund and Don Pidd, and of course, our co-host, Shawn Novack. And before we say goodbye, I'd like to leave a quote from naturalist and environmental champion John Muir, who said, "Everyone needs beauty as well as bread, places to play in and pray in, where nature may heal and give strength to the body and the soul." I really appreciate you joining us today, and we'll see you next time on Going Green.